hello, everyone. Welcome to our voiceover chat here. I'm Terry Berland. I'm a casting director who does cast voiceover very prominently and mainly commercials. And we have Nick Omana, who is a longtime successful veteran voiceover artist. And we have Jayme Mantos, who is a voiceover artist who has not been in it as long as Nick has. So why don't you, before I get into what everyone wants to hear, about how they can be successful in voiceovers. Jayme, introduce yourself briefly about where you're at in your voiceover career.
Perfect, will do. So, as Terry said, I'm Jayme. I'm a voice actor. I have been studying and working professionally in voiceover for about 7 years now, and I really love it a lot. I do mostly commercial, animation, video game, and corporate narration typically, and I have LA representation as well as some other regional representation. I've been working in it and just continuing to grow in the industry and make more friends and connections in the amazing community and build up my resume and just keep getting myself out there. It's a very exciting time to be on the up and up trajectory of my career.
And Nick Omana.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of being able to work in voiceover for, I can't believe it's been 4 decades. I didn't think I'd ever do anything that long before they found me out. But it's just, it's been a lot of fun. In the beginning, it was kind of slow getting started because it takes time to get yourself out there and established, get people to know what it is that you do and that you're reliable and show up on time and deliver the goods. But luckily, it has been a steady thing. It grew very quickly in the beginning for me, and I've been able to maintain a really good flow of business. And I got to tell you, in the last few years, it has grown exponentially. It's the amount of content that's needed to be done, whether it's, the new streaming services and all the things that are being done there, all the different e-learning things that have become opportunities. So, and because we now get to work from home, you can do it from anywhere. So it was a great job to begin with. It's just gotten better over time.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yes, there are a lot of new opportunities with streaming and all those venues. Well, obviously people need to know how to do voiceovers. It does take your acting, but it is different. And I think I want to jump right in and what, as a talent, you have to know what to execute to give a good read. Jayme, what is it? What elements do you bring into? Can you help people out? And it's the people who aren't doing voiceovers yet, this will help them to know what they have to, attain. And the ones who are already doing it might hear some nuggets from you. How do you approach it? Obviously, you give winning voiceover auditions. What is it? What do you use? How do you do it?
Yeah, so of course, every audition is going to be a little bit differently catered toward the specific genre that you're working on because there are different elements to focus on in each. But for me, the most important thing that I always start with is script analysis when I get the script, because no matter which genre you're working in, there are so many beautiful context clues in the script. So for commercial, for example, I'll read it through. I get kind of the tone of the read that they're going for and the feel for the pacing. I will go on YouTube and look at past commercials or things that particular company has put out to kind of get a vibe for how they like to present themselves. I'll look up pronunciation of words on YouTube if I'm not sure how to pronounce a certain word. And I pick out keywords in the script that I think are important to highlight as well. And so I make sure I feel emotionally connected to the read, and I'll read it out loud once or twice just so that the words sound organic coming out of my mouth, and then I'll go into the booth and lay down a couple of takes. And whether it's for animation or commercial or anything, I always make sure I'm very specific in who I'm talking to, because it makes a difference whether you're speaking to your best friend in one person, or you're giving someone medical advice, or you're supposed to be speaking to a crowd. So I always like to set the scene, and I find this particularly helpful in commercial copy, because sometimes commercial copy doesn't always read as organically as you'd like it to, as you guys know. But so one thing that helps me connect to it is I find someone specific that I'm talking to. I set the scene as if it was like a real scene study class or something, and I'm like, okay, where are we? Are we in a coffee shop? Wherever. And then I just talk to them like I would organically, like I'm having a conversation. And I'll even go so far as to, I have a picture of my best friend printed out and put in my booth. So that way when I'm delivering copy, I look right at her picture, and so I'm directly speaking to her. And I find that that really helps me connect as well.
Fantastic. And Nick, you've been doing this much longer than Jayme. What do you do?
I just read the copy. No.
Just going
just
cold.
wing it.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
My process is similar but different. For me, I usually go in and I read it one time in the booth just so I can hear what I sound like just on my first pass. Then I step out of the booth, and that's when I mark my copy up. But Jayme said something that I want to really kind of emphasize. She said she'll find words to highlight. I want to make sure that people understand that it's a way of giving emphasis, not punching a word, not beating it.
Right.
It's finding a way to finesse the read, or give emphasis to a word without being really obvious, but working it within the context of what you're saying. So very much like Jayme, I'll break down the script, I'll look things over, I'll decide who I'm speaking to, and it could be anybody. And that's, the key to what we do, but it's also the freedom of what we get to do. It can be anybody. And what goes on in your head, that moment that leads to that point that you say these words to this person with this attitude, that's all up to you. It all happens right between your ears. And nobody needs to be privy to that unless you wish to make them privy to it. But that's whatever gets you that end result is what we're doing. And I have a tendency, even if it's a radio spot, I'll come up with a shot list in my mind for what's going on against the words, because that gives me much more specificity. You have to have a point of view. You have to make a choice, and then you need to execute that choice. If you walk it right up the middle and you try to satisfy everybody, you will satisfy nobody, and you will not get the job.
I'm so glad you mentioned point of view, because as a casting director, when I'm listening to your reads and your colleagues' reads, the read that stands out now is a read that has a point of view. So not only who are you talking to, but who am I and how do I feel about this? So reads now are way beyond non-announcer, announcer. It's definitely a point of view. And I was on a panel recently with other casting directors of my status, and they all agreed with that too. Gone are the non-announcer, announcer reads. It's much more defined now. And you also said something, Nick. So Nick and I teach this core Kickstart where we get people started, and then they continue on to a branding and demo prep, which is intermediate advanced. And last night I had the privilege of working the last night with this group who Nick brought from nothing, knowing nothing, to very, very, very advanced reads. And Nick talked about not punching, that it's subtle, that there are nuances. And really the whole evening, because it was advanced, was discussions, reading, and then noticing nuances. And I promise all of you out there who have joined us, who want to get into voiceover, we have proof of it. These people went through the 3-week core, and now the 3 session, and now 6 session branding and demo prep. And they can give nuanced reads and have discussions, like complex discussions about it. So it's, it's really fascinating, you guys, as voiceover talent. If there's anything you would like to add to that, please.
Absolutely. I think, what you're saying is absolutely true. And the one thing, I don't want to take anything away from the people that we work with because we show them a way. They make the journey. And that's the biggest thing. And I've seen more and more over the last couple of years really dedicated, very focused, committed, hardworking people trying to get into the business. And they're putting all their effort toward it. And you see the growth. You see and nothing is more, as we were talking last night, nothing is more gratifying for the two of us than to see somebody come from a place where we start with them and see where they end up and see the trajectory of where they're going. And that's exciting. I mean, nothing to me is more exciting than showing up at a session and somebody I've worked with in my classes and taught is the person I'm working with in the booth in a situation. So I love that. That's the biggest reward for me.
Totally. And that's what I love about how amazing you two are at working with the talent in your classes and workshops, because like there's nothing more empowering as an actor than getting the tools and learning how to do it, like the tools that you guys give, but then you set them up for success by helping them develop their own ear, and they can then take everything that you've learned and apply it moving forward on their own. So you give them the tools, and then to Nick's point, then they go with it and continue to grow and develop their own career and all of that. And so that's a very exciting thing. And I love the point of view that Terry talked about as well. That's so important. And I think that that's something I've noticed recently in a lot of my breakdowns, particularly commercially. They'll go so far in the direction as to say, we want to see your personality infused into this read. We want like very real sounding people, whatever your kind of quirks and idiosyncratic things are. And so I think that bringing yourself to the read and that specific point of view, rather than trying to be what you think they want them to be, is ultimately what's going to help you stand out and hopefully book the job, right? So I think that being in touch with yourself and who you are and what your strengths are and what you have to offer and bring to the table is so important.
Nick, you really laughed at that. I think you have something to say.
Well, I think what the idea of being aware of what's out there in the marketplace, knowing who the competition is, being aware of what's selling and the styles and trends, but don't try to imitate somebody. Mm-hmm. Take what they do and make it your own. Be your own self, because trust me, they'll hire them to be them before they'll hire you to be them. Be the best you can be. And I promise you, nobody will ever be better at you being you than you. I know it sounds silly, but that's absolutely true.
That is absolutely true. So, obviously, people have to start with an introduction. They have to know, strong basics. Nick, what can you describe what those strong basics are?
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of like if you build a house. One, you want to make sure it's set on firm ground. Then you want to make sure you have good foundational structure to build upon that. And that's what a core basics class is going to do. It's going to give you that foundation upon which you build. And knowing that you have to have, acting skills, you have to have technical skills, you have to have interpretive skills, you have to know how to, break down the script, you have to know how to work the mic, how to take direction, there's so many things that go into it. And it's kind of like, okay, I want you to juggle 5 balls. Here they are.
Yeah.
No, we'll start out with one. That's right. And don't break
4 balls and a mic.
That's right. And so, we'll start you off with 2 balls, and then we'll add a third, then we'll add a fourth, and then we'll add the mic. So, at that point, now you can do it. It doesn't seem so overwhelming. When you break it down, I think part of the problem with our industry in general, but I think a lot of times what I find with people entering the voiceover market is it seems very mysterious to them. They don't know how it works, and they can't quite figure it out. I've got a mic. I can read. I can do this. Okay, that's great. If you want to open a hamburger stand, you got everything you need. If you want to have, haute cuisine and a really nice sit down, you're going to have to do some training to be able to get the high ticket sales. So if you want to sell $1.25 burgers, knock yourself out. If you want to sell, $250 dinners, that's a different thing. So, I mean, it really goes into the training and the intent of where you want to see yourself. There are a lot of really low paying jobs out there, and people are taking them. And it's kind of dragging down the industry in some ways. What I see is if you're properly trained, you can compete at the higher level and get the good paying jobs, the union jobs that will give you pension and welfare and take care of you for life. I mean, I'm one of the people that have the benefit of that. I want to see people coming into the market being able to have the kind of career I've had. And that only goes one, I had the good fortune of having some great mentors shepherd me along through my career. And even to this day, I still, call them up and say, beat me up a little bit. I'm getting into some bad habits. So.
Someone made a remark, don't drop the mic, it's expensive. Don't drop the mic, but by the way, your mic does not have to be expensive. There are ways to set up your home studio that has supreme sound and not expensive. So those of you who are on here who feel daunted by that, don't be.
Yeah. You hear the difference between a $250 mic and a $3,600 mic? Yes, you can. And you'll hear it, you'll be able to see it if you put it up on a scope. Will the average person hear it once it's mixed with music and sound effects and compressed and played through a speaker on a car or on a desktop? No. So for the most part, a good mic is all you need. You don't need something really, extremely fancy. I mean, I wouldn't get a Yeti mic and expect to get work with that, but there are some good intermediate ground price-wise you can get into.
Well, especially if you're just starting out too, and you're just taking intro classes and you just want to see if voiceover is for you, you definitely don't need to go out there and buy like a Sennheiser or a Neumann or something very, very expensive. You can definitely start with, something that's a little bit more affordable while you're taking that time and figure it out, and then upgrade as you can, as you're able to when you want to.
And also as would benefit you, because I will tell you, there are some mics out there that cost, over $1,000 that are not very voice friendly. Especially depending on the type of voice. Certain mics like TLM 103, not a good mic for female voices. It comes across very bright and strident, and that doesn't work in the higher register voices. So, there are various things, and, that's something we can all talk about down the road. But, you don't have to spend a ton of money to get into this.
Also, those of you who are on here who want to see if, from an intro class, you want to see if it's a good fit for you, you do not need a mic to start. We do start teaching you how to approach a script, and one of the elements is your relationship with the mic. But I just have them put up a water bottle in front of them so they can, before they have a mic, because there are 3 basic ways to use a mic. One is for intimacy, you want to get into it. For relatability, you probably want to talk towards it. And for a bigger personality, you want to talk past it. So it is good, and you do not need a mic, the first couple of classes, even just have a water bottle. So that shouldn't put you off. Like those of you who are looking into this, and I know you're looking into this because there are so many voiceover breakdowns now out on the traditional breakdown services, and your agents are sending you voiceover auditions, and you know that you have to be prepared because you are up against competition. But do not think, okay, when I sign up for an intro, that I need the equipment. You don't need it at that point.
No.
I'm seeing a couple of questions come up in the chat. If you guys,
I saw somebody asking about if you can record an audition on a cell phone and send it in that way. You know what? You can. That used to be something you could do all the time prior to the pandemic. What has changed is, prior to the pandemic, I had a home studio for 15 years, well, 12 years before the pandemic. And so I had broadcast quality at home. Only about 10% of us had that. That is not the case any longer because the pandemic really changed that and flipped it, where they actually expect you to be able to record from home. So if you're at the point where you're auditioning, I would say invest a little bit of money in putting together a small home studio, quiet space with a decent mic, because what they're also doing is they're auditioning the sound of your room as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have a great sounding audition. Now, if you happen to be in a rush and they need it turned around, and that happens these days too, I sent a note with my agent. I said, I'm sending this in from my portable rig. Just let them know I was not home to be able to meet their time frame. So that is not the sound of my, my
Yeah.
home studio. I do have a broadcast quality studio. So there are ways around it, but just know that in the long run, if you are competing in this, they are kind of auditioning the sound of your room as well.
I want to jump in on that because I am the one who I, as a casting director, the one who listens to the reads, but someone asked specifically, how long do you have when you start taking a class till you have to buy the equipment? I mean, the first 3 hour intro is we have a design for 3 quick and extremely comprehensive sessions. You do not need equipment at that point. We have people who already have equipment, people who by the 3rd start buying equipment, and people who do not purchase equipment until they go into the next level because they're really interested. And then sometimes it takes them 1 or 2 sessions. And it's great because if you do that, Nick helps you out with the connection and the sound of it. And I do want to go back to what happens to your sound after it leaves you as an actor. But before I do that, did you want to add anything to what I just said, Nick?
No, that's absolutely true. It's there's a timeline, and it all depends on you. You're really the one in control of what you want to do, how you want to proceed, how quickly or how slowly you wish to go. If you're really anxious and want to get going, go ahead and buy stuff. If you want to wait a little while and make sure it's what you want to do, or you need to save up money, that's fine too. There's no set time limit on this. There's not a shelf life on this where it's going to expire and go away.
Jayme, you have anything to add? You don't have to.
I think you guys pretty much covered that. I don't really have too much more to add than what's already been said. I'm reading all the other questions that are popping up in the chat right now.
Yes, we have lists. We give that to you in the first class. I want to go back to the sound. So as Nick and Jayme were saying, how they prepare their reads, and it has to be good sound. Yes, because so then what happens is your read goes to the casting director. So I listen to all the reads, and the competition is stiff. There are so many people now. They're hip to this, guys. They've been studying this a long time, with different people, different classes, and there's a lot of really great reads out there. So I get the reads, and then I could get, for one role, I could get thousands, but I don't get that. I mean, I have a couple of hundred to read for each role. To listen for each role. And besides how you're connecting, your choices of energy and your nuances, one of the things is the sound. If your sound is not good, Jayme, I'll look for her. If your sound is not good, meaning there's an echo, or it's very, very, very low, or there's some buzzing or clicking, what else could Nick, what else?
Sometimes it can sound a little boxy if you're in too tight of too small a space. Um, it can sound, a little muddy. It can sound a little lively if there's no treatment in the room.
Yeah.
So
Or
all of
too
those
hot,
things are,
like too
or too hot.
sharp, too
Yeah.
hot.
Well, and that sometimes happens because one, people are either not watching their levels or they're doing some post-production shenanigans, which, trust me, don't mess around with your audio file. They just want raw audio, not EQ'd, not, enhanced in any way, shape, not compressed or, any of that stuff. Just record it, clean it up, edit it, send it off, and don't over edit
Oh,
because they're also listening for that. If they hear everything's
I
too clean,
am,
it's like, okay, they
definitely.
obviously cut this together, and how long did it take them to get this, and we'll be able to get that out of them in the session. Don't over don't overwork
Yeah.
it.
Someone's using the word normalized. That is a word that those of you who don't know yet, you'll normalize your reads.
I do.
There's a lot
That
to
is
know.
one thing I will
I'm
do is I
glad
will
this is.
normalize a file just to even out the print. That way I don't have to record it too hot, but with normalization, it'll punch it out to that point. So it's really not doing anything other than maximizing the print. So that's fine, but that's not EQ and that's not compression or anything like that.
So the reason that to be competitive, you have to have a nice, clean sound with no distractions. And one of the reasons is that you can work from any place. And agents now, just say an agent in LA, they don't even care where their talent are located. They'll sign you if you live in Nevada, New York, Iowa. So in that case, if I'm just seeing if Jayme's requesting to come back on. No, not yet. That's odd. So we we give you, if my clients are located in LA, and you book it and you live in LA, we invite you to come to the studio to be with the clients and be directed. If you don't live in LA, you must have a home studio. So if I hear a crappy sound, an inferior sound, you're going to go in the no file, because if you're asked to record from home, I will not trust. You have not demonstrated that you have a good sound. So you're a no. There's no like after negotiating or explaining. Things go extremely, extremely, extremely fast with, highly professional type reads. I see Jayme's answering. Here she is. I'm going to accept her again. So that is one of the reasons that you need good sound. Hello, welcome back.
Thank you. My phone is old and it overheated and died.
Oh no.
Technology. Anyway, continue.
All righty. We were just talking about good sound. Jayme, are there any other questions out there that people are bringing up that might bring us into a different subject?
Yeah. Someone had asked before, and forgive me for not remembering their handle right now, but they asked if there was an alternative to Source Connect, and because they didn't want to pay for it. And I have a couple of thoughts on that. One is it depends on the client. I've booked directed sessions where we've used Microsoft Teams or Zoom to connect, and then I'm just recording into my DAW on my end, and I send them the raw audio when we get out of the session. And then I've also had Source Connect directed live sessions. And what I would say is, especially like the last thing you want to do is set up Source Connect like the day of your directed session, because it does take a while to initially get it set up, even though the support team is fantastic. I love them. But I would say, if you don't need to have it right away. You don't, like, especially if you're not getting those kind of auditions and you're not with an agent and you're just kind of practicing and starting out, you don't have to, but it is a really good investment for your career if you want to be booking and getting that kind of work. During the pandemic, I got set up with Source Connect because my agent requested that everyone on her roster get it. And for me, they have different options that you can do for what works.
How much is it?
I pay the monthly rate because with the monthly rate, you get unlimited tech support as well. So I believe that one's $35 a month. But I mean, if you're an actor, that's tax deductible, so it is helpful. So it is.
There is one other option for that, which is you can buy a lifetime license if you have the money to do so, which is about $700. Mm-hmm. At $35 a month, if you have it for 20 months, you've just paid for the lifetime.
Yeah.
So if you can afford to pay for it up front, you'll always have it. Great tech support. You're absolutely right. I had a question for them, and they got back to me within about 12 hours because it was on the weekend, and had an answer for me, and everything was squared and fine, and I was set for my Monday morning session. So yeah, it's not really something you want to try and skirt around, because I guarantee you it will eliminate a lot of job possibilities if you do not have it. And
every job.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, it's like, if you hire a contractor and he says, great, by the way, I don't have any tools to do the job, but I know exactly what you want. It's like, well, can't really use you. So that really is,
Now I forgot what I was going to say.
I'm sorry.
No. Every job that I cast, the studios that we use ask for Source Connect. Mm-hmm. And actors, you have to invest in something. It's your business.
Yeah.
I have to invest money in casting in certain things, and you have to budget and decide business-wise where you're going to spend your money. And your attitude shouldn't always be, no, I'm not spending it. It shouldn't be no, eliminate. Really make a list of what you need, which is not a lot for a voiceover actor. You need your equipment that's not going to cost a lot, and ultimately Source Connect. And that's, approach it as a business and make a budget.
Yeah. Well, and to that end, I have two beautiful ISDN boxes that are pristine, $5,000 a piece.
Ooh.
It is a dead technology. They're the prettiest doorstops you will ever see. And if anybody wants to buy them, I'll be more than willing to part with them. But no, but just to put that in perspective, it was $5,000 for the box, $83 a month for the hookup. And that was it. And that was years ago. I mean, it's going back 12, easily 10, 12 years ago. Now Source Connect is a considerably less expensive option. But let me ask you, would you be willing to spend $35 on an investment monthly to make thousands of dollars on the back end, or would you rather not spend the $35 and make nothing? That's what a business decision is all about. Do you spend the money with an expected return on your investment? That's all it is.
Yeah.
All righty. Any other questions that you see there, Jayme? Otherwise,
I answered a couple in the chat, so I think we're good.
Well,
there.
Everybody's loving this. People just joined. I'm sorry, we're about to wind up here, but this will be replayed. The voiceover community is really, really, really a great community. There is a voiceover guide. Oh, I didn't pull it out, called VORG, VORG. Those of you who don't know it, Google it. There is a great, fairly new, I think it's only a year old, association called NAVA, NAVA, that gives you, is working on great protections for you, including health insurance.
And AI protection too.
Yeah, they're constantly taking trips to Washington. And if you join us, those of you who are just starting with our core Kickstart, which actually starts May 1st, and we designed it to be very efficient. So instead of 4 or 5 weeks, it's 3 sessions, and extremely affordable because it's your basic, more than toe, but first your toe in the water. And you will start being a part of the community. And you want to gain relationships, network, be with other voiceover actors who, believe it or not, you'll get jobs through them. Right, Nick?
Oh yeah, if somebody calls me and asks if I can do something and I can't, I know 2 or 3 people who can, and I'll be more than happy to refer them. And it's not as altruistic as you might think, because if I do that and they find the right person, guess who they call first next time? So
Yeah. So I hope you got a lot out of this. Those of you, look up www.voiceprint West. Can you put that in the chat.com?
Yes, I put that in the chat
Yeah.
for everybody. So you can check it out there. You can also access it from the link at Berland Casting bio as well, if you didn't catch it in the chat.
Because we have a lot of guests on these chats. We have a lot of, when you join once you take something from us or request to be in the mailing list, a lot of free, great information that we send out to you. And we have our classes to assist you to grow and just be really, really successful in this field that you're interested in.
which
So
I might add is the best gig in the
that's
world.
my ending statement. I'd love to open it up to the 2 of you.
I'm going to defer to Jayme. Oh, well, as far as I'm concerned, to me, voiceover is the best gig in the world. When I was a little kid, my brother and I used to sit around with my dad's old reel-to-reel, and we would do these little radio plays and, do all the sound effects and voices and everything and play it back and laugh. I had no idea you could make a living at that. So I now get paid to do the things I used to play around with when I was a kid. So those are the things that it's so hard to express how much fun this is. But I've gotten up every day for the last 40 years doing something I absolutely love to do. And there's nothing better than that. I just, I love what we get to do. It's so creative. And, I highly encourage anybody, if you have the slightest creative bent that you wish to explore and have fun with, to me, voiceover is the most creative aspect of the business because you create everything with nothing more than your voice. And that's pretty liberating. It's, unlimited resources right between your ears. So a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I agree. VoiceOver is the best. For me, there's just nothing that makes me happier in the world than getting to do that and then connect with fellow people in the community, which is, like we've all said, that's really amazing and supportive as well. And so I would piggyback off of what Nick is saying by, if you're someone who acts and maybe does on-camera work or has theater background and wants to get into voiceover, try it out. Why not? You don't have anything to lose. And I know I can say, because I'm not a part of teaching this workshop, that these 2 did a really amazing job at setting you up and making you feel comfortable and confident in what you are learning and what you're able to bring to the table. So if you're looking to get a good foundation, definitely check out the core. And if you're curious from a casting perspective about what goes into casting a voiceover job, we actually just posted a 3-part video series on how we cast voiceovers that you can check out on Berland Casting's YouTube channel. She also has a lot of other like really amazing behind the scenes nuggets, other replays from Instagram lives we've done with Nick and other people, and other amazing free resources. So if you're on a budget but you want to learn and get a lot of great nuggets that way, definitely check that out too.
And one
Thank you.
other thing, you mentioned actors, but I found musicians make a really good transition into voiceover. They get the idea that, you know, a key can change in a note, a rhythm can change in a beat. So they're very, very geared to that sense of timing. And because music is an expressive medium, they also know how to you know, emote. So if you're into music and you thought about this, definitely have some fun with exploring it.
And Lori just says, I am a voice actor. Yay, part of the community. Thanks for coming in, Lori. All right. Bye-bye, guys. Until
Thank y'all for
next
coming.
time.